All right, so let's start with the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour. The COVID-19 infections seem to have broken records in several parts of Europe in recent weeks. Now, governments are scrambling to bolster up their defences against the fast-spreading Omicron variant. And amidst this health crisis, the World Health Organization has also called for nations to redouble their efforts to help end the pandemic. Now, the WHO officials have sounded an alarm that the Omicron variant appears to be better at evading the antibodies generated by some COVID-19 vaccines. The officials also say that the Omicron variant is also spreading way faster than the Delta variant, and it's also causing infections in people who are already vaccinated. And this means that the booster programs that are being rolled out in many countries ought to be targeted towards people with weaker immune systems.
There is now consistent evidence that Omicron is spreading significantly faster than the Delta variant. And it's more likely that people who have been vaccinated or have recovered from COVID-19 could be infected or reinfected.
As the end of the year festivities approach, the WHO's director, Dr. Tedros Adhanom, has called for the world to pull together and also to make some pretty difficult decisions. Officials have urged for New Year events to be cancelled. Dr. Tedros Adhanom further said that holiday festivities could potentially lead to increased number of infections, overwhelmed health systems, and also potentially more deaths. Now, the United Nations organization has also offered some hope to the world that is facing a new wave of infections. The WHO is setting 2022 as the target year to end the pandemic. Now, keeping this target in mind, the WHO officials have also pointed towards the development of the second and the third generation of vaccines.
There can be no doubt that increased social mixing over the holiday period in many countries will lead to increased cases, overwhelmed health systems, and more deaths. But an event cancelled is better than a life cancelled. It's better to cancel now and celebrate later than to celebrate now and grieve later.
Now, the new mutant has fueled a record surge in the number of cases. It has forced a return to some harsh restrictions in some countries. The European Union chief, Ursula von der Leyen, has warned that the Omicron variant could be the dominant variant in Europe by the middle of January. Now, experts have warned that the new variant could in fact bring some critical infrastructure virtually to breaking point. As the pandemic has gathered pace, people are once again forced with new rounds of restrictions and cancellation of big events. Germany, for instance, has tightened restrictions, notably affecting the unvaccinated people. German leaders are considering an accelerated booster campaign, and the Netherlands has imposed a Christmas lockdown. Now, Paris has already cancelled its New Year celebrations. The World Economic Forum has also been postponed. The European Union has meanwhile approved its fifth COVID-19 jab. Novavax from the United States has become the European Union's fifth official jab for use across the EU. The vaccine claims about 90.4% efficacy against COVID-19, and Novavax uses a more conventional technology. The US biotech firm hopes that it will help reduce vaccine hesitancy. The EU has already signed a deal to purchase nearly about 200 million doses of the two-shot vaccine. The shipping of the vaccines to EU's 27 member nations is expected to begin by as early as next month. The other vaccines approved in the bloc are from Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca and Johnson & Johnson. All right, now to give us more updates in terms of what the situation like is in Germany, we're being joined by our correspondent Trent Murray, who's joining us live from Berlin. Trent, thank you very much indeed for joining us on this broadcast on WION. Bring us up to speed with what the situation is like in Germany in terms of the number of Omicron variant of infections that have been recorded.
Well, Germany is just starting to get over a major resurgence of COVID-19, which was fueled by the Delta variant. There were signs that cases were starting to fall in quite a meaningful way. But of course, over the horizon is the Omicron variant, and it is coming, according to the German government. The health minister here says he's been speaking to his counterparts in the United Kingdom, and based on those conversations, a quote, massive fifth wave is on its way. And so he now is trying to do all he can to ensure that the healthcare system here will be able to withstand that wave. Part of those preparations includes a special emergency summit which is being held today here in Germany. Chancellor Olaf Scholz is gathering the 16 state regional leaders from across Germany to try and chart a course forward over the next few weeks. Already some plans are being leaked to several German newspapers, and they would suggest that there are more restrictions now on the way, specifically over New Year's Eve. Some suggestion that there may be a limit of only 10 people allowed to gather for private New Year's Eve parties, and all clubs, bars and discotheques will be told to close entirely. Just one measure the government is looking at amongst several in order to try and fight this Omicron variant as it inevitably spreads across Europe.
Now, at this point of time, we're looking at what is happening in neighbouring Netherlands, which has imposed a full lockdown ahead of the Christmas and the New Year festivities. Are we expecting similar kind of restrictions to be imposed in Germany as well?
Well, it is an extraordinary measure, isn't it, in the Netherlands? I think a real sense of deja vu for the Dutch, because this isn't a lockdown light, if you will. It is a full, hard 2020 style lockdown. Pretty well everything has now been closed with the exception of supermarkets and pharmacies. You're only allowed to meet one other person outside or indoors as well. They've slightly relaxed the rules over Christmas, saying up to 4 people can meet at a household. But of course, if you have a big extended family, or really a family of even a medium size, 4 people is not a lot. So that, of course, throws Christmas plans, it throws them really in many ways for a lot of people. Schools have also been closed. This is all part of the Dutch government's efforts, again, to try and contain the Omicron variant. It is worth mentioning their booster program is not as advanced as some of Europe's. Around 10% of the country has had a booster. They need to increase those numbers, they say, which is why they're bringing in these lockdown measures to try and buy some time. Right now, they are suggesting that it will be mid-January where those rules could start to be lifted again. But as we have seen time and time again throughout this pandemic, those goalposts can be shifted if the situation doesn't improve. Importantly, on the question of whether such measures are going to come in here in Germany, look, it's a very good question. We, of course, never rule anything in or out. But what I would say is that the way the system works here in Germany, the 16 states wields quite a bit of power. And so what we have seen before is that it only takes 1 or 2 regional leaders to push back against a lockdown, and it doesn't get up. So look, we, of course, will have to wait and see. There will be a press conference in coming hours from Chancellor Olaf Scholz to find out exactly how far he's willing to go with these New Year restrictions.
Absolutely, indeed. We'll, of course, be listening to what Olaf Scholz will have to say. Thank you very much indeed, Trent Murray, for joining us from Berlin and getting us all those updates there. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.